So we're here in the museum. We just wrapped up our Youngtimers exhibit, and it's a little cold. The last time we took
this
cars,
is actually our second loadout podcast.
Yes.
We've been doing this for a while now.
Yeah, we're seasoned.
Yeah.
We're seasoned. It's a little bit colder than the last time that we did this, but we're all driving cars that fit our personality. What are you driving?
I'm driving the BMW M5 from 1988. I'm so excited.
I didn't even have a choice. It was
Yeah.
just, you're driving the Jeep wagon.
But you're a
You just
dad.
fit the
Yeah,
Jeep.
well, it's also, I will say, my favorite of the three. I mean,
Strawn's an overlander.
I wear my,
Yeah.
I'm starting
We're
to
gonna
got
go
the
chop a
dad
tree
thing.
down.
You got the dad.
I'm turning into Donald. I'm choosing my clothes based on what I drive.
Oh boy.
No, but the Wagoneer, I love SUVs, as we all know, and this is, the classic American, one of the most expensive SUVs.
It was the first luxury.
The first
Yes.
luxury SUV,
Yeah.
so I think I'm just going to drive it home and keep it. So
Okay.
I think you
put
should.
it in the garage.
I don't think that would go
With the car
over too
seats.
well, but I think you should see what happens.
We'll
if
see
you
what
do.
happens.
Yeah.
And I'm driving the Ferrari. The
Yeah, of
400.
course.
You know,
Yeah. I'm
I
shocked.
Got my hair gel ready for
So
the
when
car.
we
It's gonna be great.
actually, this is good. When we first started the podcast, you'd never driven a Ferrari, right?
True.
So what number Ferrari are you on? Because I know you have a count. Look, you don't even know now.
I don't
It's
know.
like,
10,
We've lost
10
count,
maybe?
yeah.
We
Well, let's count after the Enzo.
Yeah.
Ferrari.
No, it's
All right.
cool though.
Well, let's go do this.
Have
Let's
some
do
fun.
it.
Pininfarina. Spaghetti pasta. L'aglio olio.
Dude, I have wanted to drive one of these for like so long. I don't know, everyone close to me knows that I'm like a BMW addict.
Ben Chesta in his BMW M5.
But I was brought home from the hospital in an E30. Like I am at that level. Like it's in my blood, I swear. But I remember when I first saw an E28 M5 with the offset rear exhaust. Was at a car wash in my hometown, and it was like, why are the exhausts all, why are they off-centered? Is it broken? Is it wrong? No, it's all by design.
Look at Antonio. He's talking to the camera. Like he's Chris Harris in his Ferrari 400i. And me and my Jeep Wagoneer in absolute comfort.
This car is so good. I probably once a year I watch the Chris Harris video where he drives his personal E28 M5 around and just absolutely thrashes it on some British B roads. The first time I saw that video, I was blown away. And just the way that Harris put it, 300 horsepower in 1986 was not a common amount of power, and the only cars you really saw that much power in were Ferraris and turbo Porsches. So to have a car with 286 naturally aspirated horsepower from a 6-cylinder was nuts. Yeah, you had muscle cars and whatnot, but those weren't, some were sports cars, but certainly they weren't sedans or saloons, as they say across the Great Pond.
Now this is, as I was saying, this is something I would absolutely own and I would drive on a daily basis. It's funny because I actually got my car towed today because the starter went, so I think I may, with 2 kids, 2 car seats in this. Antonio and Ben are going to car storage, but I'm actually going to my house. And I'm pulling this in my garage, putting the 2 car seats in, and I'm just going to tell the owner we shipped it back to Virginia. What do you think?
So we are exiting the museum now. And this is quite different than the last time that the 3 of us took these cars out of the museum. Last time it was sunny, and now we have daylight savings time, so it's a little bit darker out, a little bit gloomy.
So we're leaving the Audrain, we're on Bellevue. great seeing Antonio in a Ferrari. It's like when the Pope goes in the Vatican and speaks to his audience. He's in his element. Antonio is in his element.
This was an interesting time for Ferrari. They wanted to design cars that weren't as much in your face and had, more subtleties to them. And it was also during the time of the Italian Red Brigade, so they wanted the car to look more subtle.
These cars, they may not look it, but they're incredibly athletic and very, they offer very precise driving experience for what it is. So I'm super excited to feel it out over the next maybe 4 miles.
Power steering on this Wagoneer is incredible. It feels like a modern car, which is really nice. Being from the 80s, this is a 85, 5 years older than me. I was born in 1990. But for some reason I feel older than this car, so that's not good.
I've driven E30s. My friend Larson has a really nice 325 IS, Alpine White over Cardinal, great spec. And I actually helped him drive that across the country. He bought that in Idaho this year. And I flew to Nebraska and met him and drove halfway across the country with him. So I've got some E30 seat time this year.
This car is pretty rare because most of the 400i cars were built with an automatic transmission that they actually got from General Motors. And this one is rare because it has the manual in it.
We're hovering at 2,500 RPMs going 25, so I mean, very much there. The steering is super precise. And everyone talks about how much they hate electronic steering. It's this type of steering that people are longing after.
This, as I would quote Donald Osborne, is a car that you could cross the continents with. It's super comfortable. It's not, you think of Ferrari and you wouldn't think of a vehicle this comfortable.
This car in particular was sort of the beginning of the luxury SUV, the big American SUV. Before this, there was really just wagons. If you think of American Vacation, Chevy Chase driving the big wagon with the 4 sets of headlights. And then, of course, luxury SUVs came out, or they were, started to come out like this. And this car is extraordinarily comfortable. It has really nice finishes. You can switch it between 2 and 4-wheel drive, which is really cool, really nice for the winter.
One thing that's a little bit weird for me to get used to is the position of the indicators, which are actually right in front of where the indicator would normally be, and that's where your headlights are. And I just accidentally turned my headlights off, so Ferraris over time have improved their indicator and headlight switch design. But pretty cool. Pop-up headlights. It has a lot of character.
The shifter is so stable, so precise. Everything is really exactly how you'd expect it. This car has 85,000 miles.
It handles very well. I mean, I've driven a substantial amount of cars from the 80s, and you kind of get that. It was an interesting era of car where you had cars that were just cars to be cars, and ultra, you think the big Cadillacs with the big couches, and we actually have a couple of them in storage up in Park Place, and they're funny. It's funny to see that generation of car because it was all about opulence of the interior. And although this one has its luxury, it's refined, and it still really stands the test of time. This car is something, obviously we never see it with safety standards and that anymore, but this is a car that you could thoroughly enjoy on a daily basis in modern traffic and drive it long distances with 2 kids in the back.
And the best part about this car is the V12. That just sounds awesome. And it's not too loud. It's subtle, kind of like the design. I mean, if you were gonna cross the continent with something like this, you probably wouldn't want to have the car be super loud anyway, but it's just loud enough that it reminds you that, hey, I'm here, but it's not in your face, and that's what's nice about it.
BMWs have this playfulness to them. They are very capable, but the faster you go, the faster the car wants you to go. And it just kind of prods you along in a very fun manner.
Huh. Anytime you get to drive a Ferrari is a special occasion, that's for sure. And I'm sure that these colder temperatures that we have is helping the car as well.
Nothing squeaks, nothing rattles. It feels like a brand new car, even with 85,000 miles. And that's shocking.
I'm sure Ben is having the time of his life right now in that M5. He loves BMWs. It's fun to watch his enthusiasm for those cars. And also for Sean. Sean loves Land Rovers. He grew up driving them, and I'm sure driving the Wagoneer is an experience for him.
This is one of those cars. Sure, you could drive it around town as much as you want, and it'll do the job like perfectly, but it's a car meant to sit at 100 miles an hour for an hour or two on end. I mean, you gotta think about it. People in Germany use the Autobahn to get to work, so they wake up in the morning, start their car, and a few minutes later they're doing 100 plus miles an hour naturally, and that's just how it goes.
This car has the most pathetic horn I have ever heard. Hey, it's a Ferrari, mamma mia!
Classic inline six. My favorite engine ever. S38. These were race engines, basically detuned for street use, so that's part of the reason why it's so absurd, because you have what's essentially a race engine with, independent throttle bodies and all this other great SHIT that makes it go fast that I can't speak about intelligently, but just all around a great engine.
You could actually transport a ton of spaghetti in this thing. There is so much room. You could fit 4 people comfortably and buy out all of the Barilla at like the local shop and fit that all in the back. Oh my God, it's ridiculous.
I'd really like to drive this next to back to back with a classic Range Rover, maybe from the early 90s, because as we all know, I love Land Rovers. That's my bread and butter. And I would probably say this is more comfortable to drive. I haven't driven a classic Range Rover in a while, but from an all-around comfort and usability, this thing is hard to beat.
That Jeep was made for Sean. I've driven that Jeep a couple times. It is, you'd be shocked at how balanced and how well those trucks drive. You look at it and it's like, oh, that looks like it might be a little awkward, but the steering is great. It's an off-road vehicle, so it's got some balance to it. It's not loose, it's not sloppy, it's very tight. That Jeep is really good. I'll take the M5 though.
This is one of those things, like when this was acquired in the collection, I wasn't too sure on the styling. You know, when you think Ferrari, you think 458, or from this era, I think 308. But again, it's one of those things, it's never judge a book by its cover. Once you actually start driving it, you get really engaged. I'm glad that this one has the manual transmission and not the automatic. I don't know if I would feel as engaged if I was driving the auto.
I think it drives better than my 2011 Yukon that currently broke.
I can't get over how well it soaks up the bumps. And that also comes down to the tires. These cars have a wide sidewall, and you can actually feel what the car is doing opposed to kind of a modern tire. Yeah, you have good feeling from a modern tire, don't get me wrong, but the sidewall on a modern tire is so thin that it's kind of like a hockey puck. And this actually, the wider tires soak up the bumps quite nicely.
It's a fun car to drive. And what I love about this car is everyone knows what it is. Everyone can relate to it. You know, it's a little past my generation. I was born, as I said, in 1990, but I know what this car is. I know what it represented, and you're seeing it today with, obviously, the new one coming out, the Grand Wagoneer, the you know, competitor to that high luxury level SUV that Jeep came out with. There's one right there, actually, driving by. So it's exciting to see brands revisit cars as well and put a modern take on it. You saw Land Rover do that with the Defender, obviously Jeep with the Grand Wagoneer, and I just hope you see brands aren't trying to reinvent the wheel. They're learning from what was successful in the past and applying it and putting a modern iteration of it.
I'm looking at that center exhaust on the M5 that Ben is driving. That is a good looking car. It's kind of a shame where BMW has gone. I mean, you know, that was the first M5, and the design of that car, I think, it's very much of the era in the 80s, but it's a really good design. It looks really, really good. And now, I don't know, I think the G80 M3 is such a good car, but it's just so ugly. Let's see if we can get a little bit of an acceleration here. Now you can hear that V12 sing. That's awesome. What a great car. There is something so magical about a V12.
And we're back at car storage. So that was a great drive. I love this car. I wish the drive was longer.
And we've made it back to car storage.
That was the Ferrari 400i.
Ah, the Ferrari, mamma mia, che cazzo. Hey, so welcome back to another episode of In the Driver's Seat with ABS. We have a Christmas display behind us.
Holiday display, yes, it's lovely.
On our crouch. And this is our new exhibition, the Early Landmarks in Automotive History. Is that correct? No? What is it?
Automotive Engineering.
Automotive Engineering.
We put a lot of thought into these titles, and for you to mess it up like that is not okay.
That we got to simplify the titles.
No, it has to tell what we're talking about. And in this show, we've got a lot to
I
talk
couldn't
about.
even remember it. There's not much going on.
No, there's not.
No,
but it's a
there's
great
not.
show because there's so much to learn, and that's why you need a nice, extravagant title.
Well, this exhibit is totally different than the last exhibit that we had. We wrapped up our Youngtimers exhibit, and the three of us got to drive some pretty different but cool cars from the era. You know, I think it was a little stereotypical to us. You got to drive the first M5.
The Bimmer.
You drove the Grand Wagoneer, and then, you know, of course, I had to take the Ferrari because I'm Italian, as you can tell by the...
We've basically cornered Sean into being a truck guy.
I'm a trucker.
by force.
That's fine with me.
Whose
But you look
favorite
good in him.
vehicle
He
is
got-
a
he
Carrera
does-
GT.
I got them. Yeah.
It's the
this is-
plaid.
Huh?
I think it's just the plaid
Yeah.
shirts
And the mustache.
and the mustache.
Yeah.
Well, it's his whole dad personality.
That's
you know?
true. It works. But he's been a Land Rover guy. Did that car convert you to
I actually
showing love to Jeeps?
I talked about that in the driving when we drove from here to car storage. What I talked about was it feels very refined, like, you know, early Land Rovers. I haven't driven a classic Range Rover in a very long time, but, you know, Discoveries, Defenders. I mean, the Defender's a different thing, but Discovery too. You definitely can feel like that you're driving an American car with the Jeep, I would say. You know, the power steering, it's super soft. You're very comfortable.
That car is so comfortable. I'd be willing
It's
to
so
bet that's
very
more comfortable than
comfortable.
any Range Rover of the period.
You know, yeah, for sure. And, you know, it's I think it's purpose built for that comfort aspect.
Yeah.
And luxury, whereas the earlier Range Rovers were still, although they had that luxury aspect, they were still purpose built to be somewhat of an all-terrain vehicle, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, the Jeep was an all-terrain vehicle too, but it was more on the side of
exactly.
luxury.
It was more to be on the road as opposed to like it
on
was
the other side
true
of the
first
scale.
like suburban, if that makes sense. They had Suburbans around, but that was it's an extremely comfortable car, and I talk about how I would definitely drive that every day. It's plenty of power. I don't even know what powers it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. What's interesting to me is some cars of that period feel just kind of loose and sloppy and just all over the place, but like that Jeep is so...
It feels right.
It just, everything is right. Like, everything's right as it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
The steering is good. The brakes are good. It's got plenty of power.
It's fun to drive, and
just a nice place to sit.
It's a car that resonates with everyone, being a Woody.
Yeah.
I think everyone has.
You can't
We're in
help
a
but
beach
smile
town,
when
but
you see a Woody.
It's just a cool thing, and the car is in such immaculate shape, and the owner drives it regularly. Yeah, and there's actually another one you see driving around town. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
Yeah,
it's the darker color, but no, it's a car I never thought I would enjoy as much as I did. It's one of those cars. We drive so many cars, luckily, and with our positions.
Yeah,
and it's one of those cars that you're shocked how much you like after driving it. I knew I would always like it, but I was like, I would actually legitimately drive this every day.
That's cool. So it was a good fit.
It's an eye-opening experience.
Your experience was very stereotypical.
Oh yeah.
The M5.
Oh yeah. Great
Which
car.
is the best looking M5 of
it is.
all
Yeah.
time.
I like wake up in the morning and just dream about Chris Harris's video with his M5 on like British B roads, just absolutely slaying it around turns.
Yeah.
Like at will. But
that car is super refined. We went for a ride in it after we were done filming.
Yeah.
And I was thoroughly impressed.
That car has
how tight it was.
Yeah. The collections have had that for 5 years. We got a really good deal on it way back then, and the car has, call it 88,000 miles, and nothing rattles, nothing creaks. It's like a brand new machine. And I think that kind of touches on how well cars were built in the 80s when, technology was the focus and performance has always been the focus, but quality of the build and quality of the materials was one of the main focuses.
Yeah.
And today I think cost cutting has replaced that in the realm of cars like BMW and Mercedes and other brands.
I think what I love about that car too, and that generation of car, like the M5, is that was at a time when manufacturers weren't like, the difference between an M3 now versus a regular 3 Series is like just what the way it looked.
Yeah.
Like the way the M5 looked then, it was just, unless you really knew what you were looking at.
Yeah.
Obviously the M5 badge.
Yeah.
You couldn't really tell it was an M, and there's a beauty to that to me.
Yeah,
And I think that's what I love most about.
Made it more special.
Yeah. It was definitely, it was basically the badge. And the one thing I touched on actually when I was talking about was the first one I saw was from the back, and it had the 2 center exhaust pipes, but they were like offset,
Yeah, they were just
like
slightly
4 inches to the right. It's not like they were on the right or the left or in the middle. They were just like slightly off, and it's like wait a minute.
is
And it's
that?
just different. It's not,
That's
it's
what
not
I
like
love
big
about it.
quad pipes. It's not obviously an M.
Yeah.
But you've got the badge, and it's just a little bit of exhaust offset. It's fine.
It was a pleasure to I believe you were you in front of me or behind? I think you were in front of me.
Yeah, I was in front of me. I'm the new A.
Yeah, you're the new A.
Yeah.
But you're right. The taillights of that car are pretty good looking, and the whole rear end of it is.
And it was little
it's
things
special.
like, that was one of the first cars that got black trim around the windows, and it had the black lines in the taillights.
Stuff that's just a package
little stuff,
now
and it's
today.
like those are like little traits that carried through to like the modern generation of BMWs, so you can tell these sub models apart from each other, which is really cool. But it's one of those cars that like driving around town, it's like, it's great, and it was interesting to see that and feel it out, and the steering is like brilliant at any speed, but it's like one of those cars where you really got to drive it at 100 or 120, and that's what it was built for. And I forget who I was explaining this to, but like people in Germany get in these cars, warm them up, get on the Autobahn in the 80s, and do 130 miles an hour to work. Like that doesn't happen in this country anywhere.
No.
But that was
you.
what
The
they were
norm.
designed for. Yeah, that does for me, with its consequences.
Yeah. And then you can, on your way home, pick up the kids from school in that car.
Yeah.
And, someone who doesn't know cars, they
wouldn't
just think
know.
you're driving a BMW.
Yeah.
But you're the cool dad driving the. How much horsepower is it? I mean, obviously
That would be like
today's terms. It's
call it 285 horsepower.
in
in a car
80s,
that weighs like 3,200 pounds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
was
that's
plenty.
putting down some serious.
It was plenty. I mean,
serious
and at the
numbers.
time, the car's equivalent coming from the U.S. just didn't add up. Yeah, you had sports cars like the Grand National that had 300 horsepower, but that's a dedicated hot
Two-door.
rod, turbocharged.
2-door, right? The Grand
Yeah,
National?
yeah. Those were rocket ships, but like nothing that was so subdued like that.
Yeah.
And what did you drive, Jerry?
Well, I had to drive Ferrari.
Of course.
We were talking about stereotypes earlier, and the gold chain and my undershirt just like came
hair
out.
gel.
There was more gel that was placed.
We had to dim back the lights because the hair
Yeah.
gel was too shiny. Yeah.
Like the Godfather theme song was playing in the
Yeah, yeah.
background.
Stop that Sardello's in the way.
Yeah.
Car storage. Now, that being obviously a 400i, that one was manual, but that was the first automatic Ferrari.
Yeah.
Donald had one.
Donald had
if you-
one.
We did a YouTube video back
We
in
did.
our early,
We did.
when we first started the channel.
The early days.
The early days.
Yeah.
Now, that was the first sort of, I don't want to say like daily driving Ferrari, but that was the Ferrari that was designed to hold 4 people.
Yeah.
You could
Talk about
like
being
we
a
said-
cool dad.
Yeah.
Oh
like,
my God.
Go to
Yeah.
school, drop your kids off. Like the M5, if you didn't know what you were looking at, if you didn't see the prancing horse,
You wouldn't.
you
you
probably
wouldn't
wouldn't even know it was a Ferrari.
think. The biggest giveaway I would say to figure out if it's a Ferrari or not is probably the rear end.
Yeah.
The
circle.
Yeah. The round tail lights. And
Quad pipes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Resonated
Yeah,
tips.
the quad pipes. I mean that screams Ferrari of the era, but from the side and then the 3/4 front
Yeah.
profile, you can't really tell.
But then when you get in it with the
Yeah.
steering wheel position, you're in a Ferrari.
Yeah, the steering wheel position, and it doesn't have a gated shifter like a lot of the
Yeah.
kind of later Ferraris that came.
Do you like to shift though?
I enjoyed the shifter, and I thought
Yeah.
it was really easy to drive.
Yeah.
I mean, the clutch wasn't too heavy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't loud.
Yeah.
Most Ferraris are
Yeah.
a little bit louder, but it's more subdued. But it's designed like that to be a more gentlemanly and calm car to drive. And I liked it. I mean, it wouldn't be my first choice.
Yeah.
But I think spending some time with it, you could really get in that, and you could just drive at 100 miles an hour, and you'd
Yeah.
be totally comfortable. I
Yeah.
mean, the interior is
And I think that's
fantastic in that car.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect example of a car where, whether now or in the time, where you had the other Ferrari, right?
Yeah.
But you love the brand and you want to be in
Yeah.
a Ferrari as much as you can. So
Yeah.
let's get a 400i that I could drive to church and have
Those seats in that 400
Oh
are
my
like.
god, you like melt in that.
it's
What seats are
perfect.
more comfortable though? The Wagoneer seats
The
or the
Wagoneer.
400 seats?
No, the 400.
I would say the Wagoneer.
For
Those
those
400
of-
seats are like too big for me. It's like
Yeah.
I get lost in those seats.
Yeah.
well,
they're
you know,
good, though.
He
It's
and
a
I
cool
are a
car,
little
though.
bit more husky than you.
I know.
So we fit
Yeah, I
fit
know.
better in
You
the
get
car.
some meat on your bones.
Yeah, and they actually didn't sell the manual transmission in America, if I recall, right?
Yeah.
They only sold that one. The one we
Yeah.
have in our collection was brought over, obviously.
I think
but-
there's only, I think I mentioned, or if I remember correctly, there's only 160 or something ever made manual. So that car is rare.
Yeah, and it's a great color.
People really want those cars too. I have a funny story with that. I'll make it quick. But I was in Monterey for Car Week 2 years ago, and it was like 6 o'clock at night. Like our work day was done, and this guy was parking a Lancia Delta Integrale, like with
really?
the martini stripes, like on
Yeah.
the side of the road. So I'm like,
Legendary.
all these
legend.
like people are like freaking out, and I'm wearing a pullover like this with the Audrain logo on it. And this guy's like backing the car into the spot, and he just like happens to catch my shirt as he's parking the car. And he yells out, he's like, "Hey, you work at that museum. You got the 400i. I was the underbidder on that car. I want that car so bad. Like, if you ever sell it, you got to call me." Like, gave me a card. He was like freaking out. Like, they're very bad. They've got a niche following.
They do.
Not like a 250 GTO where everyone knows them.
Of
Everyone
course,
loves them.
yeah.
But like a 400i, it's like you've got
Yeah.
a group of people who are obsessed with them.
Well, they're also, I mean, in the world of Ferrari, obviously everything is very expensive, but there was a time where they were pretty affordable.
Yeah.
Kind of same with like the
Especially the
360
automatic
or
ones.
like the 308. Like you could get a 308 for like 30 grand like 10 years ago
Yeah.
or whatever it was. granted, the service costs are
$30,000 a year.
We won't talk about that.
That's what separates
Yeah,
the boys from the men.
the boys from
You can
the
have
men,
a
as they
Ferrari, you
say.
can have a running Ferrari.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a great show, and I'm glad to see. I think going from that to this show exemplifies
Yeah.
Yeah.
the Audrain.
Yeah. That's
Like in the best, because we go from cars from the 80s, 90s, 2000s to now we have cars from
The 90s,
turn of
yeah.
the century.
The 90s.
The 90s, the 1890s.
The 80s, the
1890s,
90s, and
yeah,
the aughts.
90s, yeah, the aughts. With some of the most, still to this day, the engineering that went into the motorcycles and the cars, the V16
Yeah.
Cadillac, the
Yeah.
Roush and Lang,
Well,
the Brough Superior,
Yeah.
whatever it may be, and a lot of these things have carried over to
Yeah.
today's cars.
Well, most of the things that were invented pre-war are the inventions haven't really gone that further.
Right.
Just the technology has progressed, and
Yeah.
we've seen like the Roush and Lang, for example, that went to Pebble and it received third in its class, was an electric car from 1912. I mean,
Yeah.
now
and it
everyone's
works.
I'm sorry, Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, a lot of this stuff was just done way before, and
Yep.
and you got to think of how smart these guys were to create all this stuff, to really think it through. And I mean,
And there were no standards, and
yeah.
and they were doing it for the first time.
it's
And they were
actually
totally
incredible.
innovating these things basically out of like thin air, like poof.
Oh, it's incredible.
It's just nuts. And we've had other pre-work shows before, but this one is focused on like what, kind of like you mentioned, what technology was brought to fruition between the 1880s and World War II and stuck around.
Talk us through a little bit through kind of the curatorial process to build a show like this. I mean, obviously your knowledge has progressed so much from your time working here, and you've learned so much. How do you go about choosing the vehicles that go in the show?
Yeah, I mean, this is a fun show because a lot of the vehicles come from our collections.
Yep.
And we already know a good amount about them and are able to easily source them. So we know what we need, and we have a lot of that. What's great about this show is we can basically pick and choose and say, all right, what kind of points do we want to nail home with guests? Like, this is not a show where you come in and like supercar show, people come in and just, you know, wow, I love that color. Like, wow, look how low that is. Like, wow, like I love that car.
Yeah,
It's like
People usually know what the car is too.
right. Yeah. Like
With
the
this,
last
you
show,
don't.
like
Yeah.
a lot of people made
This-
the kind of blunt comment like, oh, I could see these cars in a parking lot.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like you can, but these are the best examples of those. So that's the
Now
difference.
we have a Marmon. It's like,
Yeah.
how many people
It's
know
like,
what
well,
a
what's a
Marmon
Marmon?
is?
Yeah. And that's a good point too. I mean, I was talking to a kid about this today, that if you look on Wikipedia, there's a page of defunct automobile manufacturers. There's like thousands.
Oh, yeah.
Just in America. Never mind the whole world. But in this show, it's basically like, what points do we want to nail home, and what cars kind of exemplify that the best? And that's how we ended up with this set of cars and motorcycles.
I think that, granted, we're in the holidays, and the holiday display behind us with the crouches looks really nice, but I think that going from the supercars and then the Youngtimers vehicles, where everything was a little bit lower and smaller, you realize how big these automobiles were.
it's crazy.
And it adds a lot to the space,
almost
especially with the motorcycles.
Well, when
and-
we worked for a week, I mean, all of us on
Yeah.
changing the shows out, pushing cars, wiping oil, whatever. But like when you bring in cars this big, I've seen
Yeah.
cars that small,
Yeah.
it looks like the museum actually shrinks.
Yep.
Yeah.
It doesn't look
Yeah.
like anything grows. It looks like the ceilings just come down.
Yeah.
But
And when we're moving cars, we're like, yeah, this is going to fit there, no problem. It's going to take 2, maybe 3 pushes
we had
this way.
to pull a car,
Yeah,
and
we
it
had
took us 30 minutes
Yeah, we
just
had
to
to
get
move.
it from here
Yeah.
to like 100 feet over there into its spot.
And I think those are the little details that people don't realize that
Yeah.
go
Well-
into this, and how much change it. Like, we have to move cars too. Like,
Yeah.
we don't have much room here. It's not like we have a
moved
warehouse.
where the way, even the way they face, just based on the scale
Yeah.
of the cars.
Yeah.
To accommodate the space, because on paper, like you guys do, you do it to
You just
scale
move it
and
around. It's
everything, and
easy,
it looks great on paper. But once the cars get in, you're just like, holy,
Yeah. You just have to make,
massive.
you have to make these kind
Look
of
at this wheel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
berry sized.
Yeah.
it is.
But
Very
you do have to make these kind of changes on the fly, just depending on how close things are, and then you add stanchions, and we're doing a Christmas display,
Yeah,
so we have to take away
simulators,
this
train.
Yeah, so
So
The
you
train
guys,
set's epic.
you guys are definitely brilliant at curating, and like I think the way that you did the motorcycles too, right here, the
that worked out great.
Bruff and the what's over there as well. It's the Bruff.
Holly.
The Bruff, the Harley.
Yeah, the Harley.
The Holly.
The Indian on the other side, and then the Pierce Arrow bike.
It's just really cool to see the evolution. I mean, I've only been here 3 years, but just from the first show I saw, which was in 2016, to now, it's like the evolution of how we show things, from the artwork to the quotes to displays.
Well, this is
it's
show
really, really, really good.
Yeah, it is.
It gets better with every show.
Yeah, and this is show 27.
Coming up on 30.
Almost a year from now, we'll have show 30.
Yeah.
Which is going to be it's a sneak peek, by the way. No one knows this. If you're a podcast listener, this is your bonus. 30th exhibition will be the best of our first 30 shows. So
First 29.
Yeah. Cut. But that's one of my big like fixations like with the museum is seeing like an underslung next to a CLK GTR or an Aventador or something like that.
Yeah.
And like that's when you really start to like it messes with your brain about scale and size and everything.
Well, it's so incredible how far everything has come from, the 1904 Oldsmobile to you mentioned CLK GTR. I mean,
but there's a direct lineage.
There is.
Like it's
There
all
is.
connected.
It is so cool to see how many vehicles have come through this place, even in the last year.
We had a plane in here. Did you guys know that?
Yeah, it was a sponsor, right?
It was Icon Airlines
Yeah,
or
I
something
remember.
like
The
that.
one-
I don't think I got it
yeah,
right.
that was that
That was like my
2015,
one of my first
2016?
few months. Yeah, they did like an unveiling event,
Yeah.
and like the plane comes in and like it's got these carbon fiber wings. You like fold up and it's set right over there. They did a
That
whole
is
event.
so
We've literally
cool.
had planes, but we're gonna have boats in here for our next show. Like it's just really cool. It's come a long way.
The possibilities are ultimately endless.
Yeah.
During our changeover this past week, sometimes there was drama with the changeover and
Drama.
and sometimes things don't always go as planned. And David and I were riding some of the motorcycles.
Oh yeah.
In the last exhibit out, and it was the Honda Rune, the Hayabusa, the Ducati 916, and the Ducati Monster Fogarty edition. And as we know, I'm very excited about Ducati motorcycles. And
Anything Italian.
Yes. Well, anything
Except
Italian.
for pasta with gluten. We won't touch on
Don't
that. Anyways,
don't
I'm sorry.
expose me. Do
I
not
exposed
expose
you.
me, as
Threw
I
under
am
the bus.
gluten free.
Was that your like poster bike? What was your poster bike growing up?
The 916.
Okay.
Ducati 9.
So
Well,
this
Ducati,
was
the
your-
916 platform.
Which you've
Windows
ridden
98
before, but
background.
this
Yeah.
is, so you're preparing to ride your
Yeah.
poster child your
Yeah.
poster bike as a child.
Well, I'm like suiting up and I got my helmet on. In the background's like the dun 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 dun.
There's a glow around the bike.
Steam is coming off of it. And yeah, I mean, like you said, I've ridden it before, and I'm always excited to ride it. It's always a treat. And we get about what?
It's a half mile, good half mile.
Half mile down the road, and it just dies on me.
No
it had
fuel?
plenty of fuel.
Oh, it was fine.
We think it's something electronic.
Audrain Support Fiat was right there at the scene. Like
the Audrain Sport
seconds,
Fiat was there, and
right on their tail.
Ben and I had to push the bike back to the museum.
Oh, we got to show the video.
I
And
know. I rolled by you pushing by 7-Eleven. I was in the Wagoneer.
You were in
Thanks for
the
the help.
Wagoneer, and
Sean just
and
kept rolling like, see you guys at the museum. We're
That
like,
was so funny. I'm not gonna say I almost dropped the bike, but I was laughing really hard when you drove by. That was priceless to just see you
Hello?
go by. Yeah, in the Wagoneer, and it's just you never know what's gonna happen at this place. We have had so many. I don't know if I would call that an adventure, but we've had so many just funny adventures happen, and it's like you see these two guys like running up the sidewalk with this Ducati 916. It's like, did these two guys steal this thing?
Yeah, you have no
just
idea.
like normal.
It was funny.
But you think about it, it's like we have 500 vehicles in this collection, and then if you put together some mathematical equation for all the variables when you combine 500 vehicles together, it's like at the end of after 3 or 4 years, like nothing really shocks you anymore.
No.
You know.
But I mean, we
You become accustomed to preparing for the worst.
Yeah.
that's
Because
a good way
anything
to
can
put
happen.
it.
They're, these are vintage cars. They're not just
Well,
hit the button
especially
and go.
it's been sitting, not running in the museum
for 3 months.
For 3
Yeah,
months,
so.
like, there are a lot of variables at play. I mean, of course,
It's Italian.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
The engine was on a strike.
Que cazzo.
We know go to work.
Of course, the Suzuki Hayabusa.
No problem.
And
Brilliant.
the Honda
No
Roon.
issues.
No, started up immediately, rode fine.
Oil was already warm when you started, probably.
I really enjoyed riding the Honda Roon, which is like not my.
It's hysterical.
That
bike.
is like a Japanese Harley.
Another funny thing, I drove by him riding the Roon in the Hummer.
Oh
The
yeah,
electric Hummer.
I
The
saw
electric
that.
Hummer.
You're in the electric Hummer.
Yeah, and I'm like, who's riding this? I see Antonio on this massive motorcycle. Like,
And I had my helmet with my dark visor on, and I just look at him and I was like, gave him the
riding a
face.
motorcycle with a car engine in it.
It's a flat 6. It's a silent flat 6. It looks like a Harley, and it's got a gold wing flat 2-liter flat 6.
That thing is so cool.
You really like that, huh?
I really
don't think I asked you about that.
I really enjoyed that, like, because it's unlike anything I've ever ridden before, and I'm obviously not used to having my feet forward, so I got I'm doing this balancing act. But once you kind of get used to the weight, I mean, it weighs like almost 900 pounds.
But it's probably got endless. It's just endless power, right?
It's not like I didn't really accelerate that much. I've never ridden it before. It's heavy. I don't know how it stops. It's not mine. I don't want anything to happen. But I gave it like a little bit. It has a really linear power band.
Yeah, that's what I would
like.
imagine.
Leno describes it even in our video that we did with him and Donald. How it's like a lazy boy on wheels.
It's like driving a big lazy boy recliner.
That's the best way to describe it.
What is like the point of that bike? Like, what do you buy that bike to do? Like Daytona Bike Week, like road trip? I'm honestly, because it's not a bike you take out and do 5 miles around town.
Or is it
No.
kind of like one of those things where you buy like a 2,500 horsepower car? It's like
Yeah, what do you do with that?
It's
Like,
just
seriously,
kinda
what
like,
is it built
hey,
for?
look what I got.
Is it
But
kind of a
numbers?
collection piece? Like,
Oh, definitely.
Are they rare?
Yeah, I don't know the numbers on them, but they're pretty rare. I think the design is really cool. I think
It's super cool.
It's kind of a timeless design in my opinion.
Anytime they go up on Bring a Trailer, they bring big money.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like the single-sided swing arm and the fancy suspension design, the really long headlight that reminds me of a wood light from a pre-war car,
Yeah.
kind of like this stuff in here.
Good reference.
Yeah.
Teradash is Teradash? Oh, he's gone.
Well, for those of you watching and listening along today, we actually have a little bit of a live audience because we are filming in the museum.
Big live audience. Shout out
Yeah.
to the crowd. We'll pan around and show
So
that no one's there right now.
if you hear some commotion in the background, that's why.
Yeah.
But I thoroughly enjoyed riding that thing. I think that was an absolute hoot. Like, I would love to ride that thing
A
again.
modern Renaissance motorcyclist.
Yeah,
about
it was
that?
fun. I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it.
Good. We've had a crazy year.
We have
really
Yeah,
Think
we're
about it.
wrapping up. What is it? December 12th.
I gotta start Christmas shopping.
we have this is our
been-
second to last podcast.
Yes, that's going out this year. Yeah, that's right.
Going out this year.
And we have the next one that's coming out.
Should we
It's
say
quite
it? Or
exciting.
should we say it?
We do have a pretty special podcast. I think it's pretty incredible for us that we started this and we've been really
Started
fortunate.
in May.
Yeah, but we've been fortunate to have a lot of really cool guests, and I think the last podcast has arguably the coolest guest.
Arguably?
Yeah,
We've got the coolest guest.
He is the coolest guest.
He's like Johnny Bravo, of course.
and I know he's
That's a good understatement too. I think.
yeah, Crimson Chin.
Yeah, you gave it away.
Yeah, but no, I think that was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to that episode, as I think you guys are as well.
absolutely.
I'm super excited to see what people think of it.
But we had a really cool year. I think collectively, at least for me, this was the most vehicles that I've ever driven in a single year. Probably for you.
You
as
drove
well.
a Ferrari. You've never driven a Ferrari.
I never drove a Ferrari, and then I got to drive a lot of Ferraris, which
Yeah.
is
and now,
an honor.
Yeah, now you're a pro. Now you can get on the list.
Now you can retire.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe if Donald sauces me his credit card, he just got that Roma.
Yeah,
maybe
right.
If he, wants to
down
give me that.
payment, how you doing?
You don't have to buy a Portofino to get the car that you really want, right?
You know what is really fun about Ferrari, or at least some of their, like Portofino or like the Roma. It's like their names are so fun.
But those are just like
Puro Sangue.
But those are just like normal Italian names. Like here we have the Riviera and the Cherokee.
Yeah, but it
and the Holly.
It doesn't roll off the tongue.
Mustang.
That's what's so fun about
Corvette.
those cars. The Corvettes.
Corvette.
I don't know. I don't think anything beats Land Rover.
That's just
Defender.
That's just like
Land Rover.
land domination.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
Hummer.
that's the coolest thing.
Crazy year, dude. Crazy year.
Yeah, no, it's crazy that it's been, the growth has been crazy too. And I think next year, our calendar of events for motorsport and the museum are coming out shortly.
Mm-hmm.
And for us as well.
By the time this podcast goes live, you'll see. Maybe we can put a link to all the events that we have next year, which is going to be quite incredible. But you're right. I mean, we've from the Concours. I mean, everything. I mean, every event we've done. It seems like any other organization would only do one of a year, and we did so many, and it's been super successful.
In so many different realms. I mean, we didn't start the year, but in March we had the Veteran Car Tour,
which
was
that in and of itself was so fun.
That was so fun. As on an
That
operations
was the one
side,
Antonio
like
skipped out on.
who?
Hey, I had a broken collarbone. All right, it's not my fault.
Yeah. He was down bad.
He was down bad.
Down horrendous.
I had a diet, DC.
Shout out Cooch.
I need some water.
Dude, I need some water. I'm dying.
But I think that was
my favorite event of the year.
I think-
I'm gonna
I
go
think
on a
so
limb and
too.
say
Just
that.
from like
I'm very
just from
excited
how,
for it.
Just from how it operates, and like from me and Sean's perspective with people
It's
like
just-
Marvin and Ben and everybody, and watching Ben push that car.
well,
up
yeah,
the
but
bridge.
also all the cars, like, that's the event cars are expected to break.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, we do event and a lot of what people see like from behind the, from the shows, the concours, they don't see that aspect of it. And like the triaging, the troubleshooting with like Evan I to finish the.
Yeah.
Hey, he might be a potential guest.
Yeah, no, he will be. And he's also doing a seminar on this exhibit.
He is. Yeah, that'll be fun too.
But yeah, I think that from just a overall, from our side of things, that was probably the most.
Yeah, it was such a fun event to do because it's like you really have to make sure everybody's like accounted for and like
You have to make sure the car, because it's dangerous.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah.
You can't even go up like, we came up Wayne Creaney struggling to go up a tiny little hill, like a grade. I mean, you've got
a bridge a serious bridge you have to cross. You've got 4 towns that are involved with police and just awareness of the public and whatnot. And for us, like keeping everybody on track, you've got signage, you've got lunch.
Yeah,
that was really fun to just connect the dots.
Yeah,
and
it was
then
fun.
everyone
And
got
I've
back
never
and it was
been
over.
involved in an event with cars that old.
No.
I had no idea what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
They sound awesome.
Yeah, and people really, like Ben Taradash, you were wearing the get up. Big goggles, the trench coat.
Yeah. Oh, you have to.
There were steam cars there.
Seeing
it's just like crazy.
But it like blows your mind, and just seeing them in action. You have to come
It's an
see them in the
operation.
museum, but then the next step is seeing them on the road
run.
like this, because like the moment where Ben goes on to, I think it was Sandy Point Ave in Portsmouth, and I didn't have the road shut down, but it's kind of like I'm standing at the end of the road looking both ways. It's like, you're clear, don't stop, don't get out of gear. Ben comes around this turn in a Pierce Arrow doing like 30, like fully gripped, goggles, headgear, like fully torqued, and then flies up the hill. It was like, I just didn't expect that.
It's crazy when you
to
see them
operate
moving
like
quickly.
that.
It's crazy.
And it's like you don't believe it until you freaking see it.
Oh, it's like it was the same. It's the same thing with the Renault. The first time,
Exhaust wide open.
Oh my god!
first time I saw the Renault, our Renault.
Yeah.
the 1907 Vanderbilt race car.
Renault. Yeah, the Vanderbilt car. First time I saw it was for the first episode of
Mansions
and Motor Cars, which was at Marble House.
It was the first episode we filmed. The
first episode we filmed.
last episode of
Look how
season
far
1.
we've come. Steve and Sam weren't even born yet.
No, they weren't.
Yeah, they weren't even born yet. But I remember, Evan and I came to the shop, fired it right up, no problem. The thing starts right up, and and I'm following him, and he had Fernando with him, and Fernando rode with him, and I'm following
Shout out
Evan
Fernie.
and I'm following them to Marble House for you guys and Jada, and we go on Valley Road in a 1907 Renault, and he hits like 85 miles an hour.
Were you with him?
I was behind him.
Oh my God.
He's crazy.
No, but
That would be genuinely scary.
It is scary.
The car does it, no problem. Like that's
It's a
what
race
he's like.
car.
He's like, this is what it's for.
Yeah.
He's like, you got to get it. Like it's nuts. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
You just like can't comprehend.
When you
it.
think about what that car is, and I was just kind of doing a little blurb on this for a future show this morning, but I'm trying to word this. Renault won the French Grand Prix in 06.
Yeah.
And Willie K. Vanderbilt knew they won. So he reaches out to Renault like, I need 15 of those.
15.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, but we'll get you one that's easier to run that basically has the same performance on a smaller scale that you can just turn on by yourself. And it's
And he just gave him to his
basically a
friends.
Grand Prix junior
Yeah.
car.
That would be like
It's like calling it a Formula 2
Yeah.
car
Nuts.
today.
like phoning Red Bull and be like, hey, can I have a copy of Verstappen's car? I want to drive it around my neighborhood.
Yeah, it's like
that doesn't happen today.
No. And he spent like in 07 spent $250,000 on 15 vehicles,
Yeah,
which is
1907.
like millions of dollars today.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Millions
Just
of
so
dollars.
he and the boys can go racing.
Well, I think that's a good place to end.
I have so much I could talk
Well,
about.
yeah, I want to talk a little more because of the
Well,
holidays. I was just thinking
Okay,
about
talk
it.
about the holidays.
Are we going to
Bang.
sing?
No, I was
Okay,
just
good.
thinking for if there was one car for Christmas that you could get.
Oh,
I
that's a
wanna
good
kn-
question.
I want to
Mono.
know.
Does
I'm
it
just
have to
curious,
fit under
'cause
your
it's such
tree?
a changing.
Wait. I have a lot of questions about your question.
I don't have any follow up to that other
like
than what car would
Christmas
you
as in like Christmas in New England and there's snow on the ground?
No, I
or-
want to know what car you would want for Christmas if you were asking Santa and you gave him your list. What's car number one?
Can you be Santa?
Yeah, of course.
Yes, it means we can sit on his lap.
Okay.
Okay, edit that one out.
Okay.
But no, I mean, I'm just curious to see what your currently your current interest is, because we don't really talk about it that much.
Christmas wish list.
Just one car. What would you want for Christmas?
One car? Oh man.
Since he's going to take forever, what do you got?
Well, of course, being biased
Can we have the
and
same car?
Yes.
being
Okay.
biased and tasteless and not having an open mind, my mind always flashes to Porsche.
Yeah.
But
I
they're
know.
the best. Then I go into this whole inner dialogue about why do I always go to Porsche?
Yeah, why
but they're
do I?
so
It's so
good. But
cheesy.
everybody has one. But
Yeah. But they are the best.
Do you have your entry yet?
I have it whittled down to two cars.
I always come back to the 993 GT2 with the bolt-on flares. It's just everything considered.
is
It's like
sick.
that's it. Like that's the pinnacle of air-cooled Porsches.
Yeah.
Like it's the fastest one.
Just looks the best.
I think that's my easy answer before I spend an hour thinking about this because we're like wrapping up.
Yeah.
What
I
about
think
you?
that's it.
It would be a Porsche too, and I have that same problem that
Yeah.
it's like, why
It's
do I
like,
always come
I'm
back-
aware everybody
It's like,
has
I'm
one,
aware,
okay?
I'm aware everyone
I
loves
get it.
Porsche. Okay, I get it. I love cars. I
Yeah.
love
We all
Porsche,
do.
But you know, the more Porsches I get to drive,
There's a reason.
it's like they're the best. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. I would probably. I don't know. I'm in a. I really. It's so tough. But I want to know yours.
Well, I mean, I'm really going to go against what the group said and probably also say Porsche. So, probably the Carrera GT.
Yeah.
That
would
car's
you?
so epic.
Would you let Sean drive it?
No.
No, I wouldn't either.
Have you driven? You haven't driven.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've
Carrera
never
GT.
happening?
I've never driven a Carrera GT. Obviously, I would love to drive one.
Yeah.
I was going to say
10
that
cylinder
or
with
the
have you ever heard the when people put exhaust on that car? Yeah, I would probably do that. I would probably end up going with a more usable car for my current situation.
the Canapa car?
No, I don't know. I would probably go. I don't know. I like a GT3 touring.
Yeah, subtle. But
So we
order-
all just chose Porsches without.
I was going to say Ferrari
so lame.
F40, but
I
like
know we're the worst.
I can't say F40.
I can't think. This is a question like when you were.
I can't
You can
say
say
F40
F40,
because
yeah.
it's just so stereotypical me, but like I
Yeah,
think
but here we are. We all just said Porsches.
Porsche, you want to come in as a sponsor?
Yeah, hello.
Going
Yeah,
Mercedes.
Sam-
We've
Sam's
got the
gonna pick
biggest
a
Skoda
Skoda.
fan in the
Skoda.
country here, and he's
Going
looking at us very
Mercedes is the
disappointed.
best classic car you can own, and I think if you could only have one vintage car and you had,
Well,
like,
yeah.
I think it is the best driving.
The Going?
Going, without a doubt. It's the best driving.
Ben and I are like too hard on vehicles to like
getting
drive something like that.
Like a feel like you're driving a vintage car, but you can actually drive it. But you can actually drive it like no problem in modern traffic, and you can drive it for an extended period of time as long as I've never had a problem with it overheating, like getting hot in the cabin. But I love it. I love going, but I don't know.
That question is just like, when you meet someone who's not like into cars, it's like, what's your favorite car?
But
it's like,
also,
and then you say, can you give me an hour? And they look at you like, well, what do you mean? Like,
but it's also like you drive a
just
Porsche.
answer the question.
You drive a Porsche on the track, and you're like, now I need a GT3 RS. Because they are, it's hard to explain how good those cars are,
dude,
to drive on a track.
They're like their brand identity in terms of feeling across their range. I got to go to the driving experience and drive the Taycan, all GTS models, the Taycan, the Macan, the Cayenne, and then the 992. And across the board, there is a similar feeling in all of them. But I got to drive the 911 last at Lime Rock. I mean, we just did our simulator episode. We talked about this a little bit. But driving a modern Porsche, okay, 450 horsepower. It's a ridiculous amount of power.
Yeah.
Around that track, like it's like a cheat code.
But they also
it's amazing.
It makes you feel like a god.
Oh my! I was
because they're so good.
But the crazy thing to me is, a few years ago I drove a 356 and then back to back with an RS car, and it's like there's similarities. It's like
there's a connection.
Engine's still back there. The weight transfer is the same. The suspension is all built in the same kind of way. Steering weights up. It's different steering, obviously, but it weights up the same way. It's like they understand where they came from, and they literally capitalize on that.
And they just want you to have.
They
want you to have fun.
Yeah.
And it's God.
Here we go again.
It's so. Am I wearing my Porsche? No, I'm not.
Your Porsche what?
Belt.
Oh.
One's a 917 for Christmas.
I can't do anything with that. I don't have.
How can you not do something with that?
The 917 would be like
death trap.
I saw one today. There's one on Bring a Trailer. It's a 962. It's a 962.
The Coke one, right?
Yeah, the old Bobby Aiken car, and I'm like, damn, wouldn't that be cool to drive on the road? And then the more you think about it, it's like, how ridiculous is that? It's like, what do you do with a car like that?
Yeah,
you have to take it to historic racing events, and like that's kind of yeah.
I mean, that's
like Lee Hauer's Porsche, the 3.0.
Big man
RS, big man.
Like
he drives it on. Like I'm pretty sure you drive that on the road.
I've seen him drive it on
and
the road.
And it's like I'm sure it's brutal, but like
you can still drive it.
962, you can't really drive on the road.
No,
there are people who've put
Bruce
plates
Canepa
on
drives them on the road. Like
that guy's a savage.
He has videos of him driving them on the road.
Better question would be like, who would I want to wake up and be for Christmas? Bruce Canepa would be one of them. Guy's a legend.
But I think it's funny how we all came to Porsche. I'm surprised you were a Porsche, even being such Ferrari.
I fully expected Mondial.
Mondial. I was definitely thinking the Speciale.
So I did get to drive the 458 Speciale.
Sorry, I said it wrong. Speciale.
Well, it's actually Speciale, but I'm not going to be a jerk. I'll just say Special.
Special.
The Special.
Yeah.
458 Special.
The 458 is my favorite car of all time. I don't need to tell you why. It's just resonates with my childhood. I really enjoyed the way it drove. It was an incredible moment for me. I got to take my dad and drive him as well. But I think the day-to-day driving experience of a GT3 or whatever Porsche it is, I talk about that Canepa car all the time. I just like the way that they drive more. Because they're better.
Yeah,
I can't admit that.
They just are.
Do you want the Ferrari gods to smite me with a spaghetti lightning bolt, like a gluten-free
the yellow
spaghetti lightning bolt?
458's up here now.
I know.
Yeah,
I need to drive that.
Salt on the roads, bro. We're done.
I know it's all
Season's over.
I just was curious. I was in the holiday spirit, so I wanted to get an idea of what.
I have a question. Are there any car
Santa?
Christmas ornaments on your tree?
I have like 5.
Do you?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. We haven't even set up our Christmas tree yet.
What?
We don't do like
what?
The 12th. You got time.
Yeah, we got time. We're very much like a Christmas family from like December 20th to like the 25th.
I respect that.
Well, granted, my dad, we have a huge pine tree in our front yard. He put Christmas lights on that, all in the front of the house, around my part of the house. So it's like, it's good. We're festive enough.
Yeah.
Well,
My dad's a bow tie guy. We've got a 69 Hurst Olds on the tree for
nice.
ever. It's like
That's
my
cool.
prized possession.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's really neat. I think that's it though.
Yeah.
Nice. I have a
think,
Defender.
of course you do. Of course you
I'm
do.
not surprised.
Gotta.
Sean like drives it up the tree. Like, whoa, look at the capabilities.
I could do this.
Well, I think that's a good place to end. Let us know what.
What
will
a
be-
year, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Boom.
Here's the 2023, boys.
Oh wow, you're really making me reach for it. So
I'm getting old.
I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, like, subscribe, comment, share. Let us know what you would like underneath your Christmas tree, your dream car.
Anything but a Porsche. Like, get creative. Like, we have
Yeah.
no creative juices
Yeah.
in our body.
That says a lot, though. We drive a lot of cars, and we all came to Porsche. Just saying.
Yeah.
There's a reason for it.
Yeah.
Cut.